Welcome back to the channel. I'm excited to share with you today my 2026 goals. As I reflect on 2025, I had the wonderful opportunity. I won a couple of events last year. I started the year, I didn't close out events early in the year, but by the end I started figuring out how to close out some events, and so that was super exciting. I jumped my rating, 30 plus points from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and so that was really exciting. It might have even have been 60. I don't know. I'll put it on the screen about right here for you to show you the jump from the beginning to the end. But as we step into the 2026 season, I wanted to sit down and I wanted to share with you and talk about my goals, but more importantly the directions of my goals, how my goals are going to not only affect disc golf, but life in general. For me, I've always been a goal setter. Usually they're very unattainable goals, and that is something that I'm working on just in general. And so goals are super important to me because they produce the outcome you're looking for. It gives you something to shoot towards. There's that old saying, reach for the moon and you might get the stars. I don't know. I like high goals, I like lofty goals. It's always been something that is super, super important to me. Last year, the year before, I spent a lot of time focusing on ratings improvements or getting distance or becoming a better putter or scoring better in tournaments. And those things were great for a season, and they were important because, they're measurable. They're things that I could see quickly, and it became a point where my game wasn't improving because what I was seeing was not great improvement on those goals. I didn't start the year scoring better. I didn't see the ratings jumps I wanted to see. I couldn't close out a tournament. My distance suffered. There was just things that were going on. And so this year, I have some competitive goals, but I also just have what I'm calling priorities. And we're going to dig into those this year a little bit. As it comes as a competitor, one of my goals this year is I want to jump my rating from 891, which I'm currently at right now, but I want to jump it up to 930 this year. Competitively, that is something I want to do. Another thing I want to do is I want to put myself in contention in tournaments and see if I can close them out. One of the things I struggled with early last year was closing out tournaments. I had an opportunity taking the lead into round 2 of a tournament, and I got tight. I got nervous. I struggled to close out that tournament, and it stuck with me. So closing out a tournament, I want to be prepared. I want to understand the pressure. I want to work on routines. I want to have things in place that I can trust and I can build on, so in those moments I don't get tight. I don't take a mental lapse. I have the opportunity to be successful in those moments. And then when it comes to my priorities this year, it's going to be called putting the first things first. It's not going to be grinding out practice putts every single day. Yes, I'm going to practice putt. Yes, I'm going to do field work, but those aren't going to be my priorities per se. I want to keep my faith in focus. I want to keep my family tight and spend time with them. And so, as I'm working through this, I'm going to get videos up as I can. I'm going to play as I can, but I'm also not going to take away from family time or opportunities with the boys or with Shelby. I'm just not going to take those opportunities away. One of the things for me is making sure that my character on the course remains upright. It remains righteous. It remains as a testimony to my faith. I can't say one thing and then do another. That's hypocritical of me. And so that's something else that I always focus on, but You know, again, priorities, keeping the first things first. And then the last thing is calling. I'm going to make a separate video discussing that and kind of directionality of things and all of that fun stuff. But, you know, what is the Lord calling me to right now? And as I said, that's a whole separate video. That's a whole other conversation right now. But, you know, I love playing disc golf, but it isn't who I am. It is important for me because when I look at my wins and I look at my successful tournaments from last year, when I had my priorities in line, my disc golf game was better. When I was focused on the right things, my disc golf game was better. It's hard to put into words, but September of this past year, I was out of town for lots of family matters, and then turned around and played a tournament the weekend I got back, and I hadn't thrown in a couple of weeks. I hadn't putted, and the crazy thing was I had my priorities in line, and I put myself in a spot where down the line I was competing for the win. I was playing very well. Yes, I left birdies out there, and yes, I stumbled here or there, and I should have taken it down. I should have done better. But that being said, I had my life in a better alignment with my priorities, and so when I did that, my disc golf game was better. I hadn't played in a hot minute, but I came out and I was ready to go. You know, my mental goals, you know, kind of fall with my competitive goals and my priorities. One of the big things is presence. I want to be present when I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing. I want to respond to adversity well. Like disc golf and life, they align so well because you get to the course, you're going to face adversity. You're going to face moments where you don't know what to do. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to respond? Those are the questions I ask myself on a daily basis. You know, and then learning to be patient and to trust. Patience is hard for me. I'm a doer. I'm a go-getter. Let's get after it. Let's charge the hill. I enjoy that. I like to go. You ask my wife, I'm a fixer. She has a problem. I'm going to fix it, even though all she really wants me to do is listen and be patient. But I want to fix it. So this year I'm focusing on being patient. I'm focusing on trusting. Like, I say trusting like, yeah, I trust in God. We can say that, but like, do I really trust Him to provide everything I need? Do I really trust Him in His timing and not mine? You know, these are big questions that I'm asking myself on a regular basis right now. And then when it comes to content, like one of the goals I have for content is just to put out videos as I can. My goal is to put out a video every Friday, but you know, I can tell you that hasn't happened. The last video you saw was my In the Bag video. That I think, from when I'm filming this, came out 2 weeks ago, and I filmed that probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so like, I'm just not getting content out as quickly as a YouTuber, quote unquote, should. But you know, the goal isn't to build a massive YouTube channel. If that happens, that's fantastic. I'm not going to shy away from it. But that being said, I'm going to get it out as I can. I'm going to be playing disc golf. I'm going to be sharing my story. I'm going to be walking you through not only my disc golf journey, but also my journey through life over these next few months and this season. And so, as I wrap this up, you know, I gave you some of my competitive goals, but I gave you more life goals than anything else today. I can't help but see the overlap in everything I do between, you know, life and disc golf, or life and teaching, or life and going to church. You know, it's amazing things how much everything just overlaps. Like, life is meant to be intertwined with all of the things you do. They're not separate things that we do. They're all intended for intertwined throughout. And so, as we come to a close today, I would love to hear what is some of your goals this year. They could be disc golf goals. They could be life goals. They could be You know, spiritual goals. Like, I just want to hear what are some of your goals that you have for 2026. Always thank you for tuning in to CR Disc Golf. We appreciate your time. Don't forget, leave a comment, and as always, do not forget to walk that fairway with intention. We'll see you in the next one.